So contrary to what people believe, doubt isn't about insecurity. It's actually about burning desire. And that desire is what drives the fear of it not happening, the fear of losing it, the fear of us failing. The reality is that the mountain of doubt is one that we all face, but the words that we speak into it change everything. That's the game changer. So there's something called the Pygmalion effect, and I speak about this in other episodes, and there's one that I dive really deep into this. But the Pygmalion effect is the self-fulfilling prophecy, is the lens by which we view things. So the belief that I'm capable of doing something, or the belief that I'm not capable of doing something, or the belief that I'm going to fail, it incites and creates this fear in us, because this is how we view things. We think that because we are not supposed to be in places, or that because we're not good enough, or because of our lifestyle or our life history, all these things, we look at those things and we make those as the lens through which we see life. So I believe that I'm not capable because of what's happened to me. So what I do is that I'll begin to self-sabotage. I'll begin to ruin things for myself because, again, in my mind, my subconscious or even in the conscious, I don't think I deserve. I don't think I belong. I don't think I should be in. Because you believe it, you will fail. Like, we do everything possible to make sure it fails. And again, I always go back to relationships in these days because this is something that people really struggle with. But this is for literally everything. Podcasts, we'll take that one first, right? Example, because this is what we're listening on. A lot of the statistics, again, I've shared this before, but most people don't go past episode 3. Now, what is that about? It's not necessarily about podcasts. I'm not talking about like the creative aspect of it. I'm talking about the fact that people will limit what's going to happen later based on the short results that they got now. So we stop doing things in the long run because the short term didn't yield the results we thought we wanted. We stop ourselves from being the person we could possibly be, from living the life we could live, because we didn't see immediate results. There's a quote that I often say that we are expecting to see the fruits of the tree when we just planted it. You can't expect to see fruits from that thing that you just planted tomorrow. It's going to take some time, and the bigger and firmer the tree, the roots that are there, that takes a little bit longer to be created. Now, again, granted, are there people who do things and out of nowhere blow up? Sure. And I also want to give a double-edged sword to that, though, because there are people who do things and we don't see the work that goes behind it. We only see the moment of the success. We don't see the long hours, the editing, the creating, and all these things, that the effort that goes behind creating that. So what a lot of people do is, in their self-fulfilling prophecy, if they are not successful in the instant, then that's it. They give up. They begin to dictate everything else based off of that. Now, again, going back to the Pygmalion effect, a lot of people are bound by this reality, but here's the other side of it. The Pygmalion effect has the same concept. If you believe boldly in yourself, if you believe so boldly that something is going to happen, then you actually make it happen. The self-fulfilling prophecy works both ways. Is it easier to be negative? Absolutely. It's so much easier to destroy than it is to build, because destroying just takes literally take a bulldozer through it. Building takes effort and time and growth. But again, this Pygmalion effect really comes to the fact of how you speak to you. Doubt has to leave. That mountain of doubt has to go, and you are able to identify that you are capable. And instead of self-sabotaging, now you self-enforce, right? That you become, again, your biggest advocate. You become your biggest supporter. You do the things that are necessary for you to grow and help. We have to begin to question where these things come from. Like, again, is it tangible? Is it something that, yes, this is a real problem in my life, it's a real roadblock and I have to grow through it? Or is it just something that I've created a mountain out of a molehill? Is this something that I took dirt that was easy to overcome and made this huge mountain in my life where I'm scared of changing? Self-fulfilling prophecy is the reality that you will create whatever you think. So if you think that this thing is going to fail, you will guarantee that it fails. You will put yourself in places to make sure that you fail. You will put yourself in situations, or you'll begin to dictate things based on your past and previous experiences and not in the one you're in now. You won't allow the moment to be fully fruitful and purposeful and what it could be. You'll dictate it by the things that you've lived in, so you think that's all you deserve. You give yourself a limiting belief, but a limit to how far this thing can happen, and you guarantee failure because you think that that's all you deserve. I need you right now, before we get deeper into this podcast, I need you to dispel that lie that you are not capable. I need you to dispel the lie that this thing isn't for you, that you are not meant to be in that room. You are meant to be in every room you walked into, and every room that didn't let you in, that you were still meant to be in there, even though they didn't let you there. You created a room for yourself. The lie is that you can't. And the lie will always be that you're not able because of something, but you have all capacity, capability, talent, and gifting to do the things that you know you naturally can. The question isn't can you? The question is, do you believe you will? And a lot of us are going to suffer with that, right? That Pygmalion effect is hard. It's not an easy thing to overcome. But I always equate this to people who have been successful. And again, people that we bring on this podcast are people who have had stories and their mountains and things that they've come through and things that they dealt with. But a lot of people who are very, very successful in this world have this worldview. Like the way they see their life is not so much a restricting factor as to what I can't do, but a reality as to what I can do despite anything else. And there's a person I always talk about this, Porfirio Rubirosa, who's actually a Dominican. He was a diplomat from the Dominican Republic. I think, yo creo que de Santiago también. He was from Santiago, if I'm not mistaken. He might have been in that region, but I'll just take the credit because my family's from that area too. But this is who 007 is actually based on. So Porfirio Rubirosa is the actual character that James Bond, which is also why Dominicans get like this terrible rap. We get labeled in there because Porfirio, unfortunately, was he very, very adventurous man and got a lot of dates. We'll say it that way. I also, when I was reading or watching about him, I learned that he really loved hookah too. So there's something really cultural there. This is from like the 1930s or a little bit like during the World War II era. But I tell this story often because this is a person who grew up in literally nothing and created a life that he believed he deserved and put himself in rooms for people to think that. And it's not even that he had the best background around them, because yes, he made good friends with certain specific people that I'm not even going to mention because you have both sides of political. It's not political at all, so I won't mention those things. But he made relationships with people who believed what he believed because he believed it so deeply. So he walked into these rooms and people saw what he saw because he knew that he belonged there. And it took him to a point where he came to the highest levels of government in the Dominican Republic. And not just that, we base characters on this person because they believe that they belong in a place, the self-fulfilling prophecy in the positive way, the Pygmalion effect fully, that they believe that they were capable, so they did. So coming back to that truth, and I need you to ask yourself this question: what do you believe about you? Like, do I believe that I belong? Do I believe that I'm capable? Or is there something that I've made, again, a mountain in my life that makes me doubt my capability, that makes me doubt the places that I'm in, and makes me believe that I don't belong in these things? We talk about this often, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but an imposter syndrome, right? That I believe, even though I'm in certain things, that I don't belong. I need you to doubt those things, right? Because doubt is loud, right? I need you to doubt the doubt, because doubt is loud, because the lies need to yell. When you have truth, you have peace. Truth doesn't yell. Because again, think about an argument. The person who typically is correct is not the person that's yelling at the top of their lungs. They're typically the person that's the calmest. They're typically the person that's able to receive that because they know the truth. They are grounded in truth. But a lot of people, when they yell, when they get loud, they think that that's going to conquer the truth. It's not. When you're able to identify that, you're seeing that this doubt, this fear in your mind is so loud, it's because it has to be. It's because it's not capable of controlling things in you. And when you are peaceful, because you know the truth, you stay firm in what you are. Panic sets in, and that's an emotion that's stronger than logic. A lot of us respond to our panic, and I equate this often with dreams. Like, think about it. When you are dreaming, you know that this dream is not real, right? Like, yes, in the moment of a nightmare, when you're still in the nightmare, it's fear. You wake up afraid because your cortisol levels are raised, your stressor hormones all the way up. You have all these things are happening in your body, but these are emotions that are responding to something that's not real, that is not existent, that is something that it's just a figment of the imagination, or something that I've overrun in me, that I've created something out of that, but it's not something that's tangibly there. I need you to realize that that's life. Like, that is the thing that we struggle with often. We create problems in the now that aren't even in the tomorrow. We make them into something because we are so fixated in trying to mitigate that doubt, to try to fix it and correct it and put it where it belongs, or even then hiding from it because I've become so afraid that I don't actually move. At the end of the day, doubt is what's supposed to keep you alive. But ironically, it's the thing that keeps you dead. Like, for a lot of us, we have given into doubt so much that it's a natural response, right? It's a part of our brain. Our brain chemistry is meant to make you question things. It's meant to make you sit here and see if something is actually safe. But unfortunately, we let that go rampant. I equate things to a lot of things. I think I'm a visual person, so I like to say things that people could remember. And when I talk about fear and doubt, I always say the story like Courage the Cowardly Dog. Have you ever seen that show? If you haven't, it's like this really old show on Cartoon Network. That Courage would be afraid of everything. He would see like a pile of clothes in the shadow on a chair, and he would think that's like a demon, it's a monster. And the whole story is that this is a perspective from a dog, because again, smaller dogs, they have smaller brains, so their dula oblongata and their thalamus is that's part of the brain that controls emotion for them, and the dula oblongata, it's suppressed, so they are either really angry, which is why Chihuahuas are like the most vicious dogs in the world, or very anxious, and they're always shaking and scared. So the show itself, from a different perspective, shows that reality of who that particular dog is and that response is. Now, why am I talking about courage and small brains? Because that's how our brains work. Obviously not to that extent, because you are able to control and rewire and change that. But our brains, when we give it power to run rampant, it's like courage. It's scared. It sees all these things and it begins to think the worst possible thing. Again, because your brain is trying to keep you alive. Like, it's not doing it from a malicious standpoint. Like, it's not because it wants to hurt you. It's because it wants to protect you, wants to safeguard you. But unfortunately, a lot of us don't address that. We allow our brains to run rampant, so the things that are popping in our head are things that now have authority over the actions we take in our life. So I don't move on, I don't change, I don't heal, I don't grow, I don't doubt the doubt, I don't change anything because I'm going with the flow of what my brain is afraid of. You've created this doubt, this power in something that, yes, it was meant to keep you alive, but it wasn't meant to drive the car. It wasn't meant to make every huge decision for you. It wasn't meant to change things. It's limiting everything you do. We need to learn to address that. We need to know that when our brain is being loud in doubt, that we need to be firm in our words and in our heart. What we say to us matters amazingly. And again, scripture for me is always big. Proverbs 18, right? Life and death is on the tongue. What you say to you will believe. What you act in, what you change, what you move towards, is everything starts with what you say, because your brain is going to believe the words that you're saying. We need to start doubting our doubt. We need to start growing to this point where this defense mechanism that our brain has isn't the driving factor of everything we do. It isn't the catalyst of every action we take or every inaction we don't take. And I think that for a lot of us, when it comes to doubt, we stop ourselves from being this version of us, because no one's perfect, this version of us that is ideal towards what we desire and hope and want. And we now put ourselves in something that is again, even when you're in the rooms that you feel like you don't belong. Imposter syndrome. And to be completely honest, that's something I've struggled with often. And I mentioned it in this podcast and in different episodes. And it's probably going to come up again, because I'll be real with you. It's something that I'm practicing what I'm preaching. I'm not just saying it to say it. I do this all the time. And it's gotten to a point where, again, not even to be arrogant, but I know that I bring something that has value and worth. And it's not because of me, not because to serve me or serve myself, but because people have received and have gotten. And that's helped me, honestly, be able to really just hone in on that. But I need you to understand that you are meant to be there. You are meant to succeed. You're meant to be in every room that you walk in. And imposter syndrome tells us that even though we are capable, that we should not do because we don't belong. And even when you are successful, again, imposter syndrome makes you believe that this is something that is not for you. Life and death are on the tongue. So if I give into this, if I give the doubt the power, I could look the other way and say, well, I'm not going to do these things because even though I've had some level of success, it doesn't mean I'm going to be successful. It doesn't mean that I should do this all in, that I should dive in head first to this thing, because again, imposter syndrome, it's a season, it's a moment. But I need you to think, okay, cool, it's a season, it's a moment. Why aren't you enjoying it? If you are in a season of success, a season of fruit, a season of growth, why aren't you enjoying the process? Because you're too focused on the failure. You're too focused on what might happen tomorrow, that you don't live in what's happening right now. You've given so much authority to the lie of failure that you haven't lived in the joy of success. And for a lot of us, that's our downfall. We give in to this thought that we are not capable, so we will never do. We give doubt so much authority that you are now living in fear and not faith. You have created a mountain of something that's telling you that you are not who you are meant to be, because you think that you're an imposter. The definition, I'm going to read you the exact definition of imposter syndrome. It's a psychological phenomenon where individuals, despite evidence of their competence and accomplishments, that's a big one, despite the evidence, there is evidence and fruit of the things that you've done, the work that you've given, the effort that you've put in, there's evidence of this. If you are doing what you need to do, you belong there. You belong in those rooms. And honestly, even if you haven't been doing it yet, even if there's hope and intent, but again, you've had doubt in front of you, so you've stopped yourself from doing those things, you still belong. You still should be in these places, not because anyone else says you can or can't, but because you deserve it, because you know that you are capable of it. It's not if you know you're capable, is you doing the thing. So experience persistent feelings of self-doubt and inadequacy, often fearing that they will be exposed as a fraud. It's characterized by doubting one's abilities and attributing success to luck, external factors, or other people. I remember I was praying once, and again, I know tons of people that listen aren't faith-based, and that's okay. Again, there's philosophy and meat behind these things, whether you believe it or not. But I remember I was praying once, and what I do, I travel around as a speaker, and I speak at a lot of conferences and all these things. And in my prayer, I was like, God, why is it that I know so many people who are so successful, and you've never allowed them, or they've never helped me to be in these places? And in my prayer, I heard in my heart God say, because if I had allowed them, you would have given them the glory. You would have given them the thanks and the gratitude for what they did, and not for what I did in you, not for what I allowed you to do, not for what I put in you to make. You would have made them the foundation. And I need you to understand that there's a deep message here, whether you receive that portion or not. A lot of times we base our success off of other people. Again, imposter syndrome. We think that the things that we've done is based on them. I need you to know that, yes, maybe some people may open doors for you or may have put you in positions to do something else. But if you were authentically you and put yourself forth and did what you needed to do, yes, they might have opened the door, but you did the work to stay in the room. You walked through it. And if they didn't open the door, that's even better. I need you to know how much better it is that people who could have helped you didn't help you, because now the authority and the glory and the power isn't to them. It's to the one that's given it to you. It's not in what they have done for you, but where have you put yourself in. There is not a single person right now that can say, oh, you are where you are because of me. And I think that is, except God, of course, but I think that is just the most beautiful thing to ever think of. Like, there are people who have reached out to me and helped me out and put me in places, absolutely. But that was a byproduct of the work that I've already done. And after that, there's nothing else that anyone can take. I need you to understand that whether people help you or not, whether they've opened doors for you or put you in places, that everything that you do from here on out is not about them. It's always going to be about the ability in you. And if you think that you're not capable of, then you are right. Henry Ford, once again, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whatever that thought is in you, that's what's going to be. Because again, you will limit yourself to the things that you think you're capable of doing. You are going to stay in something because you think that you're not capable of getting out of it. You belong in every room you walk in. And who you are is based on who you want to be, not on who others think you should be. I think a lot of us struggle with that. We struggle, and we get so deep here. We don't have that much time on this episode, so I won't get too deep in this premise, but a lot of these things are tied into wounds that we've seen through our lives. Like, a lot of the reason that we think we're not capable is because, well, manyfold, but we're going to stay twofold here. One, because our parents have told us that we're not these things. Like, they've created these parental wounds in us that say you're not capable of certain things, or they've never spoken to you in that manner, or because of the image that we've seen in our family, like the way that we've seen our family be the worst possible version of them. And we've created that to be a limiting factor. I know, again, this is like a sensitive subject, but I know, like, often for a lot of people, we see things like abuse, or we see things like alcohol or drugs or poverty, and we've made that a center focus of the things that we do next. But I think some of the greatest stories that everyone is capable of living, everyone's capable of having, is those stories of success from nothing. And I think there's so much power in knowing that. I always make this joke, and it's a joke, honestly, but I always say, I wish I had worked at McDonald's, because I can't wait for my story in a couple of years to have that as a part of it. I did work at KFC, so we might throw that one in there. And not that there's anything wrong with McDonald's or working those kind of jobs, but it is a catalyst as to where I started and where I'm going to be or where I'm at. I firmly believe that those people who have those that those lives, they'll have those stories, have two choices. Either have the greatest story ever told, or make it an excuse as to why this mountain was too big for them to conquer. When we doubt, it allows us to realize that even imposter syndrome is a doubt. And these things will never leave until you make it your job to make it leave. So again, this reality of what you say to you matters. Like, we only overcome ourselves by speaking to ourselves. Again, think about it. Like, who do you listen to the most? I hope that I'm become a part of this. You listen to this podcast a little more, but it's not just that. It's like, not the outside voices can be very powerful, but the most powerful voice is the inside voice. It's not the voice of people, of the crowds, of the ones outside. Which again, for a lot of us, we've created this relationship where those voices control the voice inside. But the strongest voice you will ever hear is the voice in your mind. Because that voice is the voice that is consistent. It's the one that at night when you're going to sleep is the last one you hear. When you wake up in the morning is the first one you hear. It's the one that's growing. So what would happen if how you spoke to yourself was from a positive perspective and not from the negative you think of you? Like, it's from your capability and not your limits. It's from the thing that you can do, not from the things that you have been afraid to move into. What if the way you spoke to you changed everything? Because our biggest critic is us. You become your own biggest enemy, because what happens is that when you speak against you, you are limiting you, you're hating you, you're telling you that this is normal. So your brain, again, goes back to that default setting to protect you, and it's going to create this barrier around everything else. What if the way you spoke to you changed? Life and death is on the tongue. What's on your mind is on your heart, is in your life. Whatever you think, you will feel, and what you feel, you will live. Every aspect of your life will flow from that component. When you begin to look at things, and again, this is not like some silly empowerment thing. I know we get that mixed up so often because, again, there's a lot of people in these like movements of empowerment and riches and all these things. I get that. There is that reality of it. But this is just at the simplest, of course. It's just about you loving you enough to do what you need to do for you, loving you enough to believe in you, loving you enough to create something that is good for you despite the things that you've been in. A lot of people are going to continue the rat race of the thing that's not good for them because they speak to them poorly. Like, they speak to themselves in a way that is just detrimental. And there is some use for that, but again, that's like really deep in there. Let's first, I'm gonna explain it, but let's first work on growing yourself. But there is some use in there, and this is something that not everyone should do, and I'm not advocating for it, but there is something called negative reinforcement. So what happens is often, I do often say this with relationships. Sometimes you need a negative reinforcement for you to finally leave. But even in changing, sometimes a negative reinforcement makes you change. What happens is that for some people, we're able to say, hey, I suck at this, and I need to change. I need to be better. I need to grow. And we create that in a healthy way, because that could go down a very, very bad rabbit hole. We can go down this hill where we keep speaking to us negatively, and now it's not about reinforcement. Now it's just degrading. You're just destroying you because you're sitting here speaking to you in the worst way possible. So there is, I'll just have to add a little caveat in there that there is that possibility of it being useful, but that's not for everybody. What everyone can do, however, is speak to themselves in a positive way, right? When you start painting things and doubting the doubt and start questioning those things, then that thing loses power over you, because it's easy for us to fall into this hole of just hate, because again, it doesn't require anything difficult. It doesn't require much of a change. When we learn to speak to ourselves in this positive way, when we learn to actually say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I deserve, and I'm not a critic of me, I'm my biggest cheerleader, I'm an advocate, I'm a fan, you begin to know that you depend on you. And I need you to understand that, yes, it's good to love people and have friends and have those relationships healthy. You need it. You need to be able to have people around you and be able to vent and to open. But it's a problem when you depend on people for everything. Like, for your emotional stability, for your self-respect, for your self-love, when you depend on people to validate and to grow that becomes an issue. Because again, then this is not about you and who you are. It's about who people pretend you are, or people who have made you out to be. We grow that in us by allowing ourselves to be authentic, by allowing ourselves to know who we are and what we deserve, and then speaking into that and depending on us. And at this point, you then depend on you for everything, for your growth, for your love, for your validation, for every aspect that you've given other people power over. I want just to give you that challenge. And I know this is like a tough thing to do, but this week, right? If you're listening to the podcast consistently, definitely going to be mentioning something like this in the next episode. A little foreshadow or spoiler. I don't know how we word that one, but we're going to talk about healing and breakups and letting letdowns and being let go in the next one. But this is a perfect catalyst for that. There's a perfect catalyst for this healing component, because a lot of people don't heal because their hearts are stuck in that. They're stuck in this state of limerence where they're remembering and they're holding on to what was quote unquote beautiful, what they imagined in those situations. So they're never able to move or to heal or to grow or to get past that. And in the next episode, we really dive into that reality. But we need to understand that at the basis of all this, the only way that we get to those points is if we're able to speak to ourselves in a positive way. Like if we're able to say, hey, but this is who you really are. Like the doubt is saying this, the imposter syndrome is saying this, the mountain of your doubt is so big, but the truth is that you're not those things, you are this. Before we get to those deeper steps, we need to be able to establish that. So little challenge, I guess, between these 2 weeks, between this week before our next episode. I want you this week to first start every morning with something positive about you. Like it could be the smallest thing, but like I like that I woke up. I like that I beat my alarm. I like that I'm getting out of bed right now. I like that I brushed my teeth for 30 seconds longer, whatever that might be. Or find just something to hold on to that's positive and go to bed with that same concept. The reason why is because we build routines and habits of our own brain, and our brain is the one who's like, whoa, wait, I'm speaking to myself positively, I'm growing in something. And this becomes a lot easier to do the more we do it. Obviously, it becomes second nature. It becomes natural. I equate this to the things that you do before you go to bed, right? Like if I go to sleep listening to a worship song, I'll wake up in the morning singing a worship song. Why? Because my brain, that was the last thing it did. So what's happening is in your sleep, in your REM sleep, your deep sleep, your brain is going to speak to itself from a positive perspective. It's going to sit there and it's going to just remember the last couple of phrases that it was said to, that it believed. And when you wake up the next day, if you keep this cycle, what you're doing is now you're creating and enforcing a belief system and a thought pattern that allows you to do those things. We've seen this often with like those affirmation tapes, right? People will listen to affirmations. There is scientific data that backs up the power and proof of affirmations. And again, I know we've made things spiritual and all these. It's not spiritual. It's actually scientific. It's backed in science that there is something positive that happens in you. That is a rewiring of your brain that happens when you actually do these affirmations. So the same concept we're applying here. You waking up, you going to bed. Wake up in the morning and speaking these affirmations, and throughout the day they just kind of flow into it. And when you go to bed, as you go to sleep, these things will keep repeating, keep generating, keep coming back up in your brain. And what's going to happen is that we're going to try to change your brain chemistry, that you can change this, that you can change the way your brain works and flows simply by how you speak to it, because life and death is on the tongue. Everything that you say, you will believe. What your brain thinks, your heart will feel, your life will do. Those will be the things that will flow out of that.